Good evening. Just editing the voice here. It is now 1 a.m. on the East Coast. And I am talking tonight about a passing of a it's a special, welcome to another special edition. Javier Live, midnight hours. And I am doing a talk tonight on a passing of a very scary, controversial figure. So the passing of David Rocketfeller was last week. David Rockefeller passed at 101 years old. He was the grandson of the famous oil guy, John D. Rockefeller. And this video, and I normally don't talk a lot about conspiracy, but this video is going to be pretty much all about it. And I'm not going to say whether I believe this one way or another, but I'm going to be talking about what all this conspiracy is about him. Supposedly, like, he's a mega billionaire that pretty much has an alliance with the Rothschilds and pretty much owns everything. Everything we do is puppeted by these people and the global elite. When we talk about when Bernie Sanders mentions the top 1/10 of 1%, we're talking about these guys. And I'm gonna bring on a picture of this Rockefeller right now. Hold on, that's him right there. Scary picture of him. That's one picture of him. Yeah, it's David Rockefeller. He recently got his 6th heart transplant at 99 and his 7th heart transplant at 101. So when we talk about like people, like children are dying and waiting for heart transplants, this guy, he's got money, so he gets to go first in line. Here's another picture of David Rockefeller. He's a very scary looking guy. Here's another picture of David Rockefeller. That's probably one of the creepiest photos of him. And here's a picture of David Rockefeller to the right with Jacob Rothschild to the left. Jacob Rothschild is still alive. He is now 80 years old. And if you look up Jacob Rothschild, you're going to see all kinds of conspiracy about him. He is the ruler of the world, pretty much. He's the puppet of the puppets. He's the head of the elite, and he is one of those that he owns the Rothschild family fortune, something $65 trillion. I can't believe that, but whatever it is, it's very. If you actually look up how much his family is worth, we're talking like something $100 billion or something. It's said that they're trillionaires. The Rothschilds are trillionaires, and they own everything in the Rothschild Central Bank. They own pretty much everything on the globe right now, with the exception of Cuba, North Korea, and I forget which one. I forgot the third country. But if you can do research on Jacob Rothschild and the Rothschild family fortune and how they own everything. Except this video is not going to be about Jacob Rothschild. This video is about David Rockefeller, who had an alliance with Jacob Rothschild and is one of those New World Order guys. The big top end owns you. These are your masters. These are your puppet masters, New World Order guys. I'm going to show you. We have another picture of Jacob Rothschild here. Even though this video is not about him, I'm just going to feature him. Here's what it says. Hello, my name is Jacob Rothschild, and my family is worth $500 trillion. I am the Vatican banker, the richest corporation on the planet. We own nearly every central bank in the world and have financed every war since Napoleon. We own your news, your media, your government, the crowned heads of Europe. Pimp your daughters to my sons. I have Angela Merkel and Obama on speed trial, waiting their orders, and intellectually challenged. Believe policy is made in Washington. You probably never heard of me before. So this is a scary guy. This guy is still alive today. Rockefeller passed last week. And this video is going to be about the Rockefeller conspiracy. However, if you want to do research on Rothschild, I might even make another video on Rothschild, but this video is about Rockefeller. Anyway, for those of you who are watching, I just showed the pictures. And now I'm going to get started on the stuff that I've researched. Before I start doing them, this is talking about the New World Order. The New World Order is supposedly going to be headed by the top 1/10 of 1%, the very small group of people that are going to own everything. They're pretty much our masters, our puppet masters. They're in charge of everything we do. The richest of the rich, and it's going to be headed, and if we look at biblical prophecy talking about the New World Order is going to be headed by one person, and that one person is going to be the biblical Antichrist. I'm going to be reading some quotes from David Rockefeller here. And I forgot, back to the pictures. Hold on a minute. I forgot to point out, hold on. Yeah, here it is. This is the book that David Rockefeller wrote. David Rockefeller's book of memoirs. I can't pronounce it. But this book has a lot of confession in it. And I'm going to be getting to that later tonight. And this is the book he wrote if you ever want to get it. It's available on Wikipedia. No, not Wikipedia. What's it called? I forget what it's called. Amazon. Or you can maybe even Barnes & Noble. But that's going out of business. David Rockefeller, Book of Memoirs. I wish I had a copy of it with me. I don't right now. Anyway, from that book, I'm going to be quoting something that he said. I'm going to be reading a couple of quotes from him tonight, from David Rockefeller. And this is from his Book of Memoirs, the book I just showed you. Conspiring the New World Order. This is from his book on page 405. Some believe we, the Rockefeller family, are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you call it. If that's the charge, I stand guilty and I'm proud of it. So that's David Rockefeller's quote from page 405 from his book. And this is from Rockefeller in 1991. We are grateful for the Washington Post, the New York Times Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected the promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicly during those years. But the work now is much more sophisticated and prepared to march toward a one world government. The supranational seniority of an intellectual elite of world leaders is surely preferable to the national auto determination practice in past centuries. This is the quote right here, in case I misspoke anything. We are grateful to the Washington Post, New York Times. You can read it. Records of attended to me is respect to the much sophisticated, prepared to march to a world government, and that's what I read right there. And here's an even scarier quote from Nick Rockefeller. The end goal is to get everyone chipped to control the whole society. Nick Rockefeller, the end goal is to get everybody chipped to control the whole society, to have the bankers and the elite people control the world. That's from Nick Rockefeller, someone related to him. Now, I'm going to talk about this is a quote from George. For everybody who thinks 9/11 was just a coincidence, I don't believe it's a coincidence at all that September 11th of 1990, exactly 11 years, 2 towers, 11 years, exactly 11 years, so 9/11, 1990, 2 towers shaped like 11. 1990, September 11, 1990, George Herbert Walker Bush made this quote: "One of these troubled times are objective. A new world order can emerge. Today, the new world order is struggling. The new world is struggling to be born, a quite different one from what we have known. What is at stake is that a small country is a big idea. A new world order to achieve." He said in his address on September 11th of 1990, "What is at stake is more than a small country. It's a big idea, a new world order, to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind based on shared principles of rule of law. The illumination of 1,000 points of light, winds of change are with us now." And that was from George Walker Bush. You can even look up the video where he addressed the New World Order in his speech on September 11th of 1990. Exactly 11 years before 9/11. And I remember back in high school listening to that speech in government class. And what shocked me is that nobody seemed suspicious except me. I was the only one that was looking at that. I was like, isn't something strange here? He made this speech exactly 11 years before 9/11. And it's just like nobody even noticed. It's like I was the only one who noticed that. But my teacher, I remember she played it like on the screen and the whole class saw it. And I don't think anybody really looked at it with extra suspicion like I did. I'm about to read about the Rockefeller family fortunes right now. Rockefeller, and this is going to be a very long one. I'm going to quote the source in this. None of this is mine right here, but I'm going to quote the source in this. This is just a variety of stuff here. Later, this is probably going to take. Yeah, I'm just going to start. Rockefeller billions begin with the booze. Rockefeller had a partner by the name of William A. Flaker. Flaker married the niece of a man named Stephen V. Harness, owned a whiskey distillery. Rockefeller made a fortune selling whiskey in the Union Army. Rockefeller has been a flagger, neighbor to the case block. He showed his praises for talents as a gentleman. He also perceived something else. Flagger had married a man who has lately made a great fortune. Hold on a minute. Yeah, Flagger married a man who is late. I just lost this real quick. The man was Stephen V. Harness. Harness owned a distillery near Rainville, Ohio. Toward the end of the war, the government was ranking land. Was ranking the land with the fine-tooth comb values tax. To value tax, it fell naturally upon whiskey, nothing more than a tip. He proceeded to buy the funds that he collected in the barrel and could lay a hold of. With the tax levied in investment cash, this provided him with the amplest of fortunes in Cleveland. Rockefeller knew of this adventure and was a Flagger Harness nephew by marriage. Rockefeller married Dorr. This is going to go. So Rockefeller controls the U.S. oil industry. I'm going to read about that. And then Rockefeller issues the U.S. money. These are all the conspiracies. Rockefeller controls the U.S. medical profession. I'm going to read about that. Rockefeller now owns Encyclopedia Britannica and buys it. I'm going to read about that. Rockefeller controls the U.S. Bought the U.S. government. I'm going to read about that. Rockefeller controls U.S. education. I'm going to read about that. And the Twin Towers were called David and Nelson Rockefeller originally. I'm going to read about that. So I got a whole lot of topics to cover here tonight. And I'm going to cite the source because this is very interesting. So Rockefeller controls the U.S. oil industry. The first grant, trust, and monopolies were formed by the Morgans and the Rockefellers. The Rockefellers set up to create a huge oil monopoly which could completely dominate the industry. The invention of the automobile and the gasoline engine gave a virtual stronghold on the country. Instead of conserving oil, finding an alternative to wasteful gasoline, they encouraged waste and consumption of non-renewable resources. As a member of the board of directors in Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Railroad, William Rockefeller had long struck up the warm friendship with David Stillman as the president of the National City Bank. The latter stirred up, and he learned the efficiency of the Standard Oil management, and his H-I-E-R-A-C-H-I-C, whatever that means. His Hitcheric and centralized government, so much like the Roman Catholic Church, modeled his own bank. He bought the Standard Oil stock and became one of the family's Sphinx-like automatic silent. He came closer always to the Rockefeller, who have so much resembled the robber barons. From the robber barons, page 300, who is so much resembled. That's from the sources from the robber barons. I think that's a book, page 399. Rockefellers issue U.S. money. The U.S. government does not issue the U.S. paper money. The Federal Reserve notes issued by the Rockefellers founded and controlled the Federal Reserve Bank. It is a private bank, kind of like the Rothschild Central Bank. I think they're the same thing now. A private bank that is not part of the U.S. government. The Federal Reserve has the power to create money out of nothing and with access to unlimited credit and finance all the wars. The Federal Reserve Bank has the power to create money out of nothing and access to unlimited credit, has financed all the wars in the 20th century and will finance the coming aggression against Iraq. Former home of William Rockefeller on Janley Island, Georgia, was where the third bank was secretly ordered, leading the greatest theft in people's money and all the federal and in the Federal Reserve note. The Rockefeller money, even though has a long history of crime. Rockefellers controlled. Let me see if I get that source for that. They're not providing a source here. Rockefellers controlled the U.S. medical profession. Around the turn of the century, with the alien forces, was a hijacking of the American government. The Rockefeller Institute also created a sinister monopoly of American medical professions. Its director was Simon Flexer of the German Jew Jesuit doctor. Here is a quote from one of the propagandists named Abraham Flexer, which is part of the Rockefeller Institute. The curse of the medical education of the executive number of schools. The situation can improve only as weaker as superfluous schools are extinguished. That is from Abraham Flexer, a quote from Abraham Flexer in 1910. There you have it. Too many medical schools are producing too many doctors. In those days, the medical students are attending college for 2 years and then learning the healing arts from other doctors. The monopolists, however, the great system did not allow 8 years of brainwashing in Jesuit-controlled universities and colleges. Rockefeller uses the same tactic with medical school as he did with his business rivals: sell out or be forced to close. For 160 medical schools, the number was reduced to half. Rockefeller buys Encyclopedia Britannica. Yes, the Rockefeller Syndicate owns the veritable Encyclopedia Britannica that many consider the final authority. In the 1890s, Rockefeller took over a Baptist seminary called Morgan Park Theological Seminaries and renamed it University of Chicago. In 1900, the encyclopedia was bought by the publishers in Scotland. The University of Cambridge in Boston, the University of Cambridge, now did the same editing for the new owners across the pond. We did not know how much he was used for proxies among men, but you can be sure that the lowest possible price Roman Catholic editors were soon put to expunging all derogatory references to Rome. The revision of Encyclopedia Britannica was undertaken in view to eliminate matters which was objectivism for the Catholic Church viewpoint to insert which is an accurate, unbiased. The whole 28 volumes were examined. Objectionable parts noted the reason, deletion of the amendment given. There is every reason to hope that new edition of the Britannica will be found much more accurate and impartial than its predecessors' lies and fallacies of Britannica on page 4. They did exactly that. The true history of the papers and the Jesuits and the formals were removed along with the derogatory references to vaccination. Rockefeller buys the U.S. government. Rockefeller in 1911. On May 15, 1911, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled the Standard Oil cartel was a menace to the Republic and has ordered it to be broken up. For the safety of the Republic, we, the Supreme Court, have decreed that it is dangerous conspiracy. That the dangerous conspiracy must end by November 15th, 1911. That's from John D. A. Portrait in Oils, page 104. Rockefeller vowed revenge against the U.S. and used his vast fortune to buy the U.S. government. So, May 15, 1911, the Supreme Court ruled that the Standard Oil cartel was a menace to the Republic and ordered it to be broken up. For the safety of the Republic, that's what they ruled here, that they have to break up the Standard Oil cartel. Rockefeller vowed revenge against the U.S. government and used his vast fortune to buy the government. The breakup of the Standard Oil resulted in 37 new companies. Rockefeller secretly controlled them all by owning a voting majority in the stock of the corporation. So he controls the 37 companies. Thus, the Standard Oil would be Oil New Jersey Exxon. Standard New York Mobil, Standard in Indiana, Standard Oil California. Oh, this is the name. Sorry. Standard Oil New Jersey Exxon, Standard Oil New York Mobil, Standard Oil Indiana Ameco, Standard Oil California Chevron, Atlantic Refining Arco. It was all businesses. So all these oil companies are owned by Rockefeller and are still owned by Rockefeller today. Ultimately, it was the business used in 26 Broadway, the headquarters. Rockefeller controls U.S. education. Trustees from the General Education Board, the first Rockefeller Foundation, at a retreat in Rockland, Maine, in July 1915. From now on the left, Edwin, and it's showing a picture here, and it's just saying all the names there. Yeah. Okay. Twin Towers were called. So supposedly the Rockefellers also control the education in the U.S. And to sum it all up, they control the. They pretty much they own our government. Pretty much, they own this. The conspiracy is that they own our government. They own the Encyclopedia Britannica. They control the medical profession. They control our education. They issue our money. They control the oil industry, as I read about the oil. This is a lot of complicated stuff, and they pretty much control everything, and they're pretty much in charge of everything because of their vast amounts of wealth they own. And the Twin Towers were called David and Nelson Rockefeller. Um, Governor Nelson Rockefeller to the left with Mayor John Leslie inspect the models of the Twin Tower. We're seeing pictures here. Governor Nelson Rockefeller to the left. Inspect the models of the Twin Tower. So the Twin Towers were quite important, I guess. Two aggressive structures stand, one in New York City, the other in Albany. The giant bookends, Rockefeller and the Hudson stretching in between Holman and Maine and overpowering the shadow-like bugs. The Twin Towers were effectively named. Oh, listen to this. The Twin Towers were effectively named David and Nelson Rockefeller because they were the driving force behind their construction. Immediately after the demolition on 9/11/2001. Immediately after the demolition of immediately after September 11, 2001, the Rockefeller Syndicate controlled the Pentagon, invaded Afghanistan, and set up the Caspian Sea oil, controlled by Russians, which was the competition of the Standard Oil since 1890. So there's just more evidence that it just shows that, like the conspiracy, basically says that they own our government, the Rockefeller Foundation, that the Rockefellers own our government pretty much. Oil industry, they issue our money, like they own our medical professions, they own our government, they own our education, and you can do a lot of research on this. I mean, there's a lot to be said on this because, like, I could have done more research myself, but there's a lot to be said on this conspiracy, and it's very interesting just to look up. And like I said, he proudly admitted in his book if you want to read his book, page 405, the direct quote, I'll read it again. With some believe we Rockefeller family are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists. I've been conspiring with others around the world to promote a more interactive global economic political structure. One world, that's called. If that's the charge, I stand guilty and I'm proud of it. So that's what he said. And the whole thing about and he has an alliance. They have an alliance with the Rothschilds. These are like the richest of the richest people. They own everything and pretty much the governments, and the Rothschilds are richer than he is. But that's pretty much the conspiracy right there. That they own everything, all the governments, and they own our whole system, and our entire educational system is indoctrinated, and that's the conspiracy there, and that's pretty much, it's very interesting, and it just shows because Anonymous recently, whoever watched, no, I don't Anonymous, hold on a minute. Anonymous just posted a video out on Rockefeller's death, and it is entitled, hold on a minute. Anonymous posted a video, and the king of the New World Order has fallen. That's Rocketfeller, and I pretty much summed it up. Right now, I pretty much summed up the conspiracy that like they own pretty much everything, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to bring us toward. They're trying to bring us toward a one world order, and they're using all the governments to do it. And what they want to do is to bring all the governments together and to have one global government and one world, obviously one world government, one world religion, and one world institution, pretty much. And that one world institution will be ruled by the Antichrist. And that's pretty much like all this evidence right here is just showing that like it's what's pretty much appears to be conspiring by our governments. Here's the anonymous video. Not sure if I should play this or not. Maybe I'm just gonna. I guess I'll.
The following story is amazing and should be shared with everyone you know. The most highly anticipated death of David Rockefeller happened when his newly transplanted heart failed this time around. In the statement from the Rockefeller Foundation, David Rockefeller described as one of the most influential figures in the history of American philanthropy and finance. Rockefeller was the last surviving grandson of John D. Rockefeller, who founded the Standard Oil Company in the 19th century and built a fortune that made him America's first billionaire, the statement added. David Rockefeller was born in New York City on June 12, 1915. Since 2004, he was family patriarch and the oldest living member of the Rockefeller family. Rockefeller graduated from Harvard in 1936 and received a doctorate in economics from the University of Chicago in 1940. He served in the Army during World War II, then began climbing the ranks of management at Chase Bank. That bank merged with the Manhattan Company in 1955. In 1961, David Rockefeller was named Chase Manhattan's president and chief executive officer 8 years later. In 1965, at age 65, David Rockefeller resigned after a 35-year career. He died of congestive heart failure in his sleep at home in Pocantico Hills. A family spokesman, Fraser P. Seatle, confirmed the death. Wait, was it really the failure of his seventh heart transplant? A quote by David Rockefeller, quote, "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity during those years. But the world is more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodetermination practiced in past centuries. For more than a century, ideological extremists at either end of the political spectrum have seized upon well-publicized incidents, such as my encounter with Castro, to attack the Rockefeller family for the inordinate influence they claim we wield over American political and economic institutions. Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure, one world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I am proud of it." End quote.
There it is right there. Here's a big screen version of that quote right there that I posted. That's from his book right there. He's probably explaining it better.
Terror strikes East Cleveland City law enforcement last night after responding to complaints of a hammering noise.
So that's pretty much, that's pretty much it. It's just something interesting to research, something interesting to look up, I guess. And I guess whoever made it this far, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. More later. Bye-bye.